Hi guys, good evening. I'm Ilangovan, online personal for teaching zoology. Know that when it is a platform for learning different subjects. So in the previous classes, we have studied something about the various concepts of evolution, various theories of evolution, the organic evolution. What are the various theories that support organic evolution, like Darwinian concept, the Lamarckian concept, the mutation theory, and also finally we started the modern synthetic theory of evolution, the most accepted theory of evolution. We studied something about the frequency of genes, the gene pool, and also the Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. And also we studied something about actually the Sewall-Wright effect, a few words. Now we have started about what are the various factors that affect the allelic frequency or the gene frequency. One such factor in the last class we have studied something about the natural selection process. The process which normally on basis of genetical orientation affecting the allelic frequency in different ways. There are different types of selection process, the stabilizing selection, that one, the direction selection, and also disruptive selection. So that is factor number one that changes allelic frequency. Factor number two, the one which affects the allelic frequency is gene flow or gene migration. So it is not the gene is migrating from one population to another population. You know that one, only the individuals are migrating. While they are migrating from one place to another place, they are also carrying the genes with them. And that is what we can say the gene flow migration. So what is gene flow migration? It is nothing but the movement of alleles. I mentioned already the alleles are not moving, only the individuals are moving. They are carrying the alleles with them while moving from one place to another place, while they are migrating. So it is a movement of alleles from one population to another. How is it possible? This is because of interbreeding between the members of two populations. It is because of what we have the reproductive process between the members of two different populations. That is what we call this one gene flow migration. The movement of alleles or gene from one population to another because of interbreeding. Say an example, a person, an Indian is moving from India to America where he got married with an individual there. You see that one change in allele frequency happens. We are losing one allele, simply we can say in terms of number, and America is gaining actually one allele. So anyhow, change in allelic frequency occurs. Here I represented an illustration of beetles which exhibit what is called gene flow migration. So here there are two populations of beetles. Now this is population 1 and this is population 2. So from this population, let's assume there are 6 individuals in each population. There are 6 beetles, green beetles in population 1. There are 6 beetles in population 2. Namely, just actually the yellow color or what we call this one orange colored beetles. Now one beetle is moving from here and migrating towards this population. So there is a loss of one individual for this population 2. And there is a gain for this population because the number has been increased by 1. So we have 7 beetles just as per the figure. And here there are only 5 beetles. 6 minus 1, here 6 plus 1. So because of this movement, now this actually the orange colored beetle just entered here and then have a reproduction with the green beetle. So a new individual being formed. So anyway, here there is a change in allelic frequency because of the movement of one member from one population to another where there is an interbreeding process. So it is possible only when there is an interbreeding occurs between the individuals of two different populations. So anyway, gene flow, gene migration is also one of the factors responsible for causing change in allelic frequency or gene frequency. Now let's go to the factor, next factor. Fact number 3, genetic load, or we can say genetic burden. Sometimes we have, in addition to the beneficial genes, there are some harmful or deleterious genes found in the population, causing the death of the individual, leading to decrease in number of alleles in that population. So that occurrence of harmful genes or deleterious genes in the population causing the reduction in allelic frequency is called a genetic load or genetic burden, just like pollution load. You know the meaning of pollution load? Accumulation of waste in and environment is called pollution load. Like that we have here the occurrence of deleterious genes. So what do you mean by genetic load? The existence of deleterious genes within the population, and that is what is called genetic load or genetic burden. Also we have another definition, the proportion by which the optimum genotype is decreased by the presence of deleterious genes. Suppose we have there are 5 genotypes in a population. Because of the occurrence of one allele, say an example of homozygous recessive allele, which causes the death of the individual, leading to reduction in number of alleles. That is what is known as genetic load. So when we have more and more recessive genes, when the recessive genes are brought together in a homozygous condition, it causes the death of the individual, leading to reduction in number of alleles. Reduction in number of individuals, ultimately reduction in number of alleles, and that process called genetic load. So the proportion by which the optimum genotype is decreased by recessive alleles in the form of deleterious effect. So any deleterious gene which causes the reduction in allelic frequency, that phenomenon is called genetic load. So we have one best example for this one, sickle cell anemia. Sickle cell anemia is an example for genetic load or genetic burden. Actually, the genetic load or genetic burden may be due to selection, namely natural selection. So if it is because of selection, then it is called selection load. If any genetic load is caused by natural selection, then it is called selection load. Or if it is caused by mutation, for example, a dominant gene undergone mutation leading to the formation of recessive gene, that causes the reduction in allelic frequency, then it is called mutation load. So a genetic load may be caused because of selection, natural selection, or because of mutation. So one such example, we have the best example for genetic load, genetic burden, that is sickle cell anemia. You know that one we already studied this one under genetics. Sickle cell anemia, this is caused because of a mutation resulting in the formation of what is called valine in place of glutamic acid at peptide number 6. This is the one what we have, the genetic load. The genetic load sickle cell anemia, we have normally, just in the case of sickle cell anemia, you know that one there are 3 different types of genotypes. You will have it the same and polymorphism. Sickle cell anemia is caused because of actually mutation resulted in peptide number 6. In place of glutamic acid, we have valine is present, that resulted in what is called sickle cell anemia. The homozygotes, the recessive forms normally die, whereas heterozygous individuals are considered as carriers for the disease. We have studied already all these things under the genetic disorders under sickle cell anemia, a qualitative problem. Now, the fourth factor responsible actually affecting the gene frequency, genetic drift, or it's also called Sewall-Wright effect, just after it was proposed by Sewall-Wright in 1930. So unlike the Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium, the Sewall-Wright effect is a deviation from Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. In what sense? Normally in the case of Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium, we know that when it is meant for large population. And in the case of genetic drift, it is meant for small, isolated and island populations. Actually, in the case of genetic equilibrium, there you have an Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium, P plus is equal to 1, but the deviation, that is the genetic drift, is deviating from the genetic equilibrium of P plus is equal to 1. I will explain now. So what do you mean by genetic drift? Sometimes we have random changes in allelic frequency occurs in a small sexually reproducing population. How? By means of chance fluctuations. What is a chance? So change in allelic frequency in a small sexually reproducing population by chance, and that be actually a random change results in what is called by chance. Then it is called random genetic drift. So the random changes that occur in the allelic frequency by chance in a small sexually reproducing population is called what is known as genetic drift, a slow variation. Now, unlike the Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium, you know that one in the genetic equilibrium in Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium are the principle P plus Q is equal to 1. That is the ratio between the dominant and recessive allelic frequency remains constant, that is equal to 1. But in the case of genetic drift, it is a deviation from Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. In one sense, it is concerned with a small population. In another sense, the end result of genetic drift will be either fixation, that is P or Q is equal to 1, or loss, P or Q is equal to 0. What's the meaning for that one? Now that one, P for dominant allelic frequency, Q the recessive allelic frequency. So there in the case of Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium, P plus Q is equal to 1. P plus Q is equal to 1 in the case of Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium. But here we see that one is a little different. Suppose let us assume in a population there are two alleles. One is dominant, another one recessive. That is we have in the form of individuals. So here chance, it is nothing but in the form of an accident or in the form of climatic conditions or some weather report, and for example the sandy storms. So any weather or climatic conditions which cause damage to the individuals, causing the death of the individual, is called as a chance. It may be an accident or the natural calamities like tsunami, or we have for example the storm, sorry, even the flood also we have. So these are all called as chance events. These chance events are responsible for changing the allelic frequency only in a small island population, not in large populations. So the genetic drift is concerned with a small population. Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium is concerned with the large population. So I mentioned once again, in Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium, just P plus Q is equal to 1 now. So what will happen? In a population, let us assume there is one dominant allele and one recessive allele that is possessed by the individual. So, and what will happen? There is an accident. A person is meeting an accident, leading to the loss of either dominant allele or recessive allele. Out of the two alleles, one escape and one just actually attaining the death. One attaining the death. That means I am using the word death, that means disappear. Then it is called fixation. Either the presence of a dominant allele or the presence of actually recessive allele being there in that population because of the natural calamities or by means of an accident. Then it is called fixation. But sometimes what will happen because of the natural calamities, the entire population is wiped out. The entire population is wiped out in that area. So both the dominant and recessive alleles being lost. So in that case we have a loss. So here P or Q is equal to 0. Neither dominant nor recessive alleles being present in that population for that particular character. That is why, because of a random change, a random drift, a slow variation, what will happen because of the chance events, nothing but the natural calamities or accident, we have either fixation or loss. Either both the alleles being present or only one allele is present, or both the alleles being actually completely disappear. So that is what is happening. So what is a drift? It is nothing but a binomial sampling error. Binomial sampling error, nothing but a chance. Binomial sampling error is nothing but a chance of what is called a gene pool. Due to error in the gene pool because of the chance event, there is a change in allelic frequency in a slow manner, and that is why it is called as a drift. Drifting, a slow variation. Now, what is the importance of this genetic drift? It tends to reduce the amount of genetic variability among the individuals in a population. It tends to reduce the amount of genetic variability among the individuals in a population. How? By eliminating those alleles which have low frequency. So how it reduces the amount of genetic variability? In a small population, you know that we have more number of homozygous individuals when compared to the heterozygous individuals, because it's a limited area where you have only small number of individuals, so that there is a chance of having more number of homozygotes than heterozygotes. So when recessive genes are brought together in a homozygous condition, normally that results in lethality, that is normally harmful effect. In most cases, you know that one in individuals, in human beings, the homozygous recessive condition results in the death of the individual. So when these recessive genes are brought together, then ultimately we have the death of the individuals. Only the homozygous dominant individuals are surviving along with the heterozygotes. So in that manner, so now the recessive genes have low frequency, having less adaptive value. That is why they are eliminated. So one of the the important characteristics of genetic drift, it tends to reduce the amount of genetic variability in a small population, mainly how by eliminating the alleles which have low frequency, particularly the recessive genes in homozygous condition. So anyway, change in allelic frequency occurs. Here is the picture. So I represented what you have, for example, the frogs. Some of the frogs are mating an accident. Say an example, these 3 frogs are mating an accident, or just actually the mating the natural calamities. There is nothing but chance events. So what will happen in the next generation? These frogs are not being represented in the population. So that what will happen? There is a reduction in allelic frequency, and those having an adaptive value or alone just being survived here, and these individuals are eliminated. So a small fluctuating variation achieved that leads to a reduction in population size, ultimately reduction in allelic frequency is called as genetic drift. So here is one example showing the genetic drift, reduction in allelic frequency because of the homozygous recessive condition. Now what is founder effect? So now under the genetic drift as proposed by Sewall-Wright effect, we have 2 types of genetic drift. One is called founder effect, another one bottleneck effect. So these 2 are examples of genetic drift, founder effect and bottleneck effect. What I'm going to study the next one, these 2 are examples for just the genetic drift. So founder effect is an example of genetic drift. Who are the founders? So normally sometimes a new population has been developed, derivation of new population from a small group of individuals which form the base. Such individuals which form the base to form a new population are called as founders. These founders actually once give the population new population. The newly formed population has a genotype entirely different from the parent population. Anyway, we have change in allelic frequency occurs, a new population has been developed. So that effect is called founder effect. So it is the derivation of new population from a small group of individuals. Such individuals act as founders, and that population which is formed from such founders is genetically different from the parental population. So 2 new populations develop. For example, the population on Pitcairn Island. There is one island, there you have a human population. So because of what is called a chance event, natural calamity, maybe because of storm, 2 different races of human populations are shown there. They just actually got settled in that island, they got married and produced a new population. That population has entirely different from the 2 parent populations who settled there in that island. For example, so we have different races of human populations, humans or human population or human species. You know that one, Australoid, Negroid. Then we have also what we have the Caucasian race, we belong to Caucasian race, and also Polynesian race, Negro. And also we have the Mongoloid race. So we have different races of population. Now in the Pitcairn Island, because of chance event, 2 different races, one Caucasian race, another one Polynesian race, they just actually got settled in that island. They got married, interbred among themselves and produced individuals. And these individuals have genotype entirely different from these 2 parental populations, namely the Caucasian and Polynesian races. So these Caucasian Polynesian races were considered as the founders for the present population of that island, Pitcairn Island. So here a small group of individuals responsible for the formation of a new population. That new population has normally the genotype entirely different from the parent populations. Here the Caucasian and Polynesians are considered as the founders, and the present population developed from these 2 individuals, and now these are all the founders. The new population now at present has a genotype entirely different from these 2 parent populations. So this is what is called a founder effect. Now here, so this is the original population. I represent the individuals in the form red and blue dots. Then because of chance event, what will happen? Now these founders are formed. So these are all the founder populations. which later on giving rise to new population. So there are three different types of founders. This is founder 1, founder 2, founder 3. If you compare the genotype of these individuals with the parallel population, the second alone more or less similar to the parallel population, whereas 1 and 3 are entirely different from the parallel population in their genetic arrangement. So these two populations 1 and 3, these two populations, small population 1 and 3, they became what are called just simply the founders gave rise to a new population, and that new population has genotype entirely different from the parallel population. So by virtue of the diagram, you can understand the founders and the new population developed in what way they have the genotype different from the parallel population. So this is what is called the founder effect, one form of genetic drift. Now another form of genetic drift, you have bottleneck effect. It is also another form of genetic drift. Once again, what do you mean by bottleneck? These are all nothing but natural calamities once again. The earthquakes, the storms, the volcanic eruptions, the flood, all are coming under this category bottlenecks. So what will happen? Suppose if you take actually one large population. After bottlenecks, most of the individuals normally die. Now, we have only a few number of individuals for the next generation. So they have become enlarged in size. And the newly enlarged population has genotype entirely different from the parallel population. It is also a kind of genetic drift. So, after the bottlenecks, the parents of the next generation have been reduced into small number. See that one. And these small number of individuals, when they increase number to attain the maximum size of that population, the individuals have the genotype entirely different from the parallel population. So interbreeding may not be possible with the newly developed population and the parallel population. Now the newly developed population simply evolved into new species. So those individuals which are left after the bottlenecks, actually they develop into a genotype and entirely different from the parallel. So after bottlenecks, suppose you are taking 100 individuals, nearly 75 individuals actually became dead. Only 25 individuals are there. So these individuals form the future generation or the next generation. So they are increasing number gradually. While attaining the maximum size, they have the genotype entirely different from the parallel population. So interbreeding may not be possible between the parallel population and the present population, the one which is evolved. And the newly evolved population developed into new species. That is why I mentioned here, the individuals after the bottlenecks actually develop the genotype other than the genotype of the parents. So they develop actually a genotype, or the bottlenecks develop into a population. That population is genetically different from the parallel population. I will represent the picture here. What is bottlenecks? Why is it called as a bottleneck? Say we have a bottle here full of beads. Now it is being placed on the substrate. Just imagine that accidentally you are tilting the bottle. So most of the beads have gone out. So we have only few, just what we have the beads in that bottle. And that is the comparison. That is why it's called the bottle. So those found near the neck of the bottle have been actually fallen, have been removed from the bottle. And now we have only a few numbers in that one. If you want to increase that one, we have to add some more beads in that manner. So what will happen? We have the parallel population. After the bottleneck, you see that one drastic reduction in population. The population size has been decreased. So this is a small number of individuals which form the parents of the next generation. And these individuals are increasing in number by means of what is called reproduction. Now it attains the maximum size in the next generation. Once it is formed, you see that one is full of actually the beads in that bottle comparable to the individuals. So it attains its maximum size. But the individuals in that generation or in the new population have genotypes entirely different from the genotype of this parent population. If you are comparing the genotype of these two, this is the parent population and this is the new population. The new population has genotype entirely different from the parent population. So we have change in allelic frequency occurs. There is no interbreeding is possible between these two because of change in genotype. Now this new population evolved into a new species or a population. This is what we have. So anyway, these are all the factors responsible for changing the allelic frequency. One, natural selection. Number two, what I mentioned, just actually genetic load. Now the genetic drift. Now let's pass on to the next factor, somehow responsible for causing actually allelic frequency change. Now here is a graph showing what would happen to the population at times of bottleneck effect. So at times of bottlenecks, what I mentioned, I think the natural calamities, you see that one, this is the original size of the population before bottleneck. So after bottleneck, you see that one, the size of the population has gone down, decrease or decline in population size because some of the individuals became extinct. While recovering, these new individuals, the left out individuals after the bottlenecks, they grow in size, interbreeding, so that the size of the population is increasing gradually. Now we are getting the new population. That population is entirely different from that population. This is what is happening in the case of bottleneck. As in the case of actually, so in the case of both founder effect and bottleneck effect, there is a change in allelic frequency. The genetic variability gets reduced. As a general rule, genetic drift tends to reduce the amount of genetic variability by eliminating those alleles which have low frequency. That is what is happening in the case of genetic drift. You can see both in bottleneck effect as well as also founder effect. Now the fifth factor responsible for changing the allelic frequency is a common rule. You know that one, change in mutation rate. You know that one, normally many evolution changes normally happen to occur because of the formation of new alleles. When new alleles are formed, ultimately the genetic equilibrium has been changed. P plus is equal to 1 has been changed because of the development of new alleles. Such new alleles resulted because of one, what is called the mutation. So mutation is a source of formation of new alleles that results in the formation of new individuals, leading to evolutionary change. So many evolutionary changes occur because of the development of new alleles. The source of such new alleles is nothing but mutation. So when you have more mutation, when the rate of mutation is increased, ultimately the evolutionary change is also increasing, the rate of evolutionary change. So that is also one of the factors. For example, we are taking what is called a dominant gene in a population, A. It undergone mutation. As a result, it is being converted into a recessive gene. Let's assume there are 100 A genes. One of the dominant genes, A, get converted into small a. So we have only 99 dominant genes, A. And here already we have just 60 recessive genes. Now one gene gets muted to form a recessive gene. Now the number has been increased, 60 plus 1. So like that, you see that one change in allelic frequency is also caused because of mutation. When the rate of mutation is higher, then we have the rate of frequency of change in genes also high. Or the allelic frequency change is more and more when the rate of mutation is more. So directly proportional, it is normal. Okay. So these are all the 5 factors responsible for causing just the changes in allelic frequency or gene frequency. There are also certain factors responsible for changing the genotype frequency but without changing the allelic frequency. So altogether, as per our syllabus, we have there are 2 factors responsible for changing the genotype frequencies but not allelic frequencies. What are the factors? Number 1, the genetic recombination, or for example, sexual recombination as a result of crossing over. Suppose we make a cross between yellow round, what I studied in the case of God and P, and then wrinkled. So this is yellow round, and then just we have that is green wrinkled, green wrinkle, green wrinkle. The F1 generation we received, you know that a hybrid. We received a hybrid, yellow round, but it's hybrid. Now when it forms gametes, you know that one just actually it produces different types of gametes. Altogether it produces 4 gametes. What is that? Now this is homozygous dominant 1. This is heterozygous dominant. See, the alleles are capital Y, capital R, small y. These are all the alleles. But what would happen in the F1 generation? We received a new genotype. So this is homozygous dominant, this is homozygous recessive, and now we are getting a heterozygous dominant. So now the homozygous dominant plus homozygous recessive is equal to 100%. Let's assume the homozygous dominant and then homozygous recessive together in a population is about 100 or 100%. Now what will happen? A new genotype is formed, a heterozygous dominant. Now what will happen? Its genotype has gone down. The ratio or the percentage has gone down to 30%. It may be 30% and here it may be 30%. So to begin with, it is 50%, this is 50% and this is actually a new formed one. So 50-50 we will get 100. And because of the formation of a new genotype, now the genotype frequency of homozygous dominant, homozygous recessive has gone down to 33 each. So you see that one change in genotype frequency. The frequency has gone down. So it's been equally distributed like that. But what about the genes or alleles? Is there any change or is there any new gene being formed? So no new gene being formed here. So the allelic frequency remains constant in such cases. So here, one of the factors responsible for the formation of such individuals, you know that one sexual combination, that is because of crossing over. So during meiosis, because of crossing over only, we have received different combinations, what we call this one the genetic recombinations, a normal natural process. Normal natural process. So here we have received a new individual, a new genotype, but without changing the allelic frequency. Capital Y, capital R, small y, their frequency remains constant. Their frequency remains constant. But the genotype frequency has been changed. So the factor responsible for changing genotype frequency but not changing the allelic frequency is sexual recombination or genetic recombination, the one which is resulted because of crossing over. So in that illustration you can understand there is no change in allelic frequency but there is a change in genotype frequency. Now another one. So here also another factor responsible for causing genotype frequency but not changing the allelic frequency, assortative mating or non-random mating or preferential mating. So assortative mating, it is under our control. Non-random, not natural occurring, it can be done only under captivity. Or also we have preferential mating, we are just selecting the individuals. So all those matings which do not occur in nature but under the control of human beings are called assortative mating or non-random mating and then preferential mating. So one of the factors affecting Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium, you see that one non-random mating. Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium is possible only for random mating. It is possible only in the absence of non-random mating. Possible only in the presence of random mating. Possible only in the absence of non-random mating. So you won't get the genetic equilibrium B plus is equal to 1 in Hardy-Weinberg equilibrium if the mating in a sexual population is not random. Because it is under the control of human, we are just creating a new individual, not by natural method. Okay, so these are the two factors responsible for just causing change in genotype frequency but not causing a change in allelic frequency. And if you are taking the non-random mating, just actually there are two types, inbreeding and outbreeding. You know the meaning of breeding up closely related individuals, outbreeding, breeding up less closely related individuals. That is called outbreeding. And again we can just classify the assortative mating into two based on this one, positive and negative assortative matings. In positive assortative mating, mate of a similar phenotype, just inbreeding. There is nothing but inbreeding. Positive assortative mating is nothing but inbreeding, mate of similar phenotype. In the case of negative assortative mating, it is nothing but a mate of dissimilar phenotype, outbreeding. Mating of similar phenotype, that is called positive. Mate of dissimilar phenotype, that is called what is known as outbreeding. So might have similar phenotype, might have different phenotype. These are the two types of what is called the assorted mating, which will produce, for example, if you make a cross between, say an example, lion and tiger, it is intercross or intergenic. You can get a new individual. This is possible while under captivity. Even in an aquarium, we can produce new type of fishes by making a cross between two different varieties. It is possible only under captivity. It's not possible in natural mating or natural processes. So such matings that occur in captivity or under captivity or in aquarium, they are called as assorted matings. Now the next one, what is polymorphism? See, a polymorphic population has more than one type of phenotype. Or we can say population is described as a polymorphic population. A polymorphic population is a one having many different phenotypes for a particular type. So a population is called as a polymorphic for a particular character. A single character being represented by more than one form, then it's called polymorphism. A single character being represented by more than one form, then it's called polymorphism. So a population is called polymorphic for a character. One character. If two or more forms are actually represented in that population in high enough frequencies. So we are taking one particular character, it is being represented by more than one form, and that forms being represented by higher number of frequencies. Then it is called a polymorphic population. The phenomenon is called polymorphism. Even we can say the occurrence of more than two alleles. The occurrence of more than two alleles of a single allele. The occurrence of more than two alleles affecting the actually same character. It's an example of multiple alleles. That is also an example for polymorphism. Here we have two examples. One is ABO blood group. There are three alleles. Existence of more than two alleles. Then it is called polymorphism. So we can describe polymorphism either in terms of phenotype or in terms of what is called alleles. One definition, occurrence of more than two alleles in a population affecting the same character is called polymorphic allele. Or occurrence of more than one phenotype in a population is called polymorphism. A single character is being represented by more than one form in enough high frequencies, then it is called polymorphism. Now, ABO blood groups, we have three alleles, A allele, B allele, and also the O allele recessive allele. We have four different types of blood groups, A, B, AB, and O. Because of a different combination, we are getting one more type, AB. So we have more than two alleles, and also we have more than, you see that are two phenotypes, A blood group, B blood group, AB and O blood group. That is the best example for polymorphism. Another example is sickle cell anemia. So sickle cell anemia is also an example for polymorphism because we have three different types of genotypes. I will show you the next slide. And before that, what do you mean by balanced polymorphism? Balanced selection or balanced polymorphism? So it is nothing but actually preservation of genetic variability. Homozygous dominant, heterozygous dominant, homozygous recessive. These are all the variability in genotypes. So the preservation of genetic variability in a population. That is actually how? Through heterozygotes. It's called what is known as balanced polymorphism or balanced selection. So we are maintaining the genetic variability because of the successful reproduction of the heterozygous individuals. Sometimes you know that when you have the homozygous recessive genes, when they are brought together, resulting in the death of the individuals. And this is being compensated by vigorous, rapid, that is what is called the reproduction of the heterozygous. The loss of one allele by homozygous recessive condition is well balanced by a gain. How? Which is resulting through the successful reproduction of heterozygous. Then it's called balanced polymorphism. So the occurrence of more than two alleles, occurrence of more than two phenotypes being represented, being actually preserved in a population because of the successful reproduction of heterozygotes. Then it's called balanced polymorphism. One such example, sickle cell anemia. Now in sickle cell anemia, you know, we have the hemoglobin. The common hemoglobin and normal hemoglobin produced by dominant gene, you know that one HbA. So normal individuals or the adults have hemoglobin, adult hemoglobin produced by homozygous dominant genes or heterozygous dominant genes. So the gene responsible for the production of normal hemoglobin HbA. Now And when these genes undergone mutation, we have received another gene what is called sickle cell gene. So this is normal gene for normal hemoglobin. This is a sickle cell gene for sickle cell condition. Now, because of the presence of these two different genes, we have received three different types of genotypes. One genotype homozygous dominant, another genotype homozygous recessive, the third genotype heterozygous dominant. That is why sickle cell anemia is an example for polymorphism, occurrence of three different types of individuals, both genotypically and also phenotypically. Now, what is the importance of this one? Normally, these homozygous individuals possessing the normal dominant gene, they are considered as normal. And they are not resistant to malaria. They are easily affected by malaria. Though they are considered as a normal individual, they are not having resistant power against malaria. Now, when you have a sickle cell gene, when present in homozygous condition, it causes the death of the individual, what we call this one the lethal effect. So, homozygous recessive individuals become sickle cell, they die. So, they will not survive. Now, let us take the third one, what I seen already. The heterozygous individuals having one dominant gene and one recessive gene for sickle cell, they survive. They act as carriers. And they are not affected by sickle cell anemia, but also they are highly resistant to malaria. So, normal individuals are non-resistant to malaria. The heterozygous individuals are resistant to malaria, and the recessive individuals, homozygous for the gene, will die. So, we have three different groups of population. That is why it is called polymorphism. Occurrence of polymorphism in sickle cell. I mentioned balanced polymorphism and balanced summation. Now we see that on water level, because of the recessive condition, we are losing the genes, the individual die. The homozygous individuals die because of the possession of two recessive genes. And the loss of such recessive genes through the death of homozygous individuals, we compensate by a gain. What gain? How? Through the successful reproduction of the heterozygotes. Then it's called balanced selection or balanced polymorphism. Death of the death of homozygous recessive individuals. Through this one, what happened? We are losing the recessive genes. The loss is being actually compensated by a gain. How? The successful reproduction or through the successful reproduction of the heterozygotes. This is what is called balanced selection or balanced polymorphism. So, we are maintaining the balance of though the gene is normally harmful in recessive condition, but it has some favorism to the individual, particularly for the Africans having heterozygous condition, highly resistant to malaria. Because of this beneficial effect, the nature has favored the existence of such genes in a population, so that we have three different types of individuals in population resulting in polymorphism. Now let's pass on to the next part of. So these are all some of the factors related to what we described so far, factors affecting what is called the gene frequency and factors affecting genotype frequency. Now let us pass on. What is polymorphism also? Existence of more than one phenotype or existence of more than one allele for a particular allele or a gene. Now speciation and isolation. See, speciation nothing but the process of formation of new species from already existing species, not from de novo, but actually the formation of new species from already existing species is called speciation. Isolation. So speciation in most cases result because of the isolating mechanisms. When two different species are isolated or the same species are isolated in two different places because of barriers, then it results in the formation of new species. So, what is the role of isolation? It is nothing but the formation of species. So, speciation mainly resulted in the past because of isolating mechanisms. So, isolation plays a major role in producing what is called evolutionary divergence. So, the ultimate effect of isolation of individuals in the past, evolutionary divergence, nothing but the formation of different species. So, what is speciation and what is the role of isolation in speciation? That is the topic now. So, I mentioned already speciation is a formation of new species from already existing species. Maybe from one species gives rise to another species, or two or more species may evolve from a single species accordingly. We have two different methods of speciation here. One is anagenesis or phyletic evolution. So in the case of anagenesis or phyletic evolution, one species, I am representing here species 1, evolves into another species, that is species 2. When a single species gives rise to another species, then the phenomenon is called anagenesis or phyletic evolution. Sometimes a single species may give rise to more than one species, 1 or 2 or 3. And such a phenomenon is called cladogenesis. What is cladogenesis? So, here for example, one species, I am taking species 1. It diverges into species 2 and species 3. So, two different types of species have been evolved from a single species 1. Then the phenomenon is called cladogenesis. This is one process of speciation. This is general classification. Formation of species, one species into one species into more than one species. So first one, what we have, anagenesis or phyletic evolution. The second one, what is called cladogenesis, formation of two different species or even more than two from a single species. But we have different methods of adapted different just actual types of speciation. And the first one, simply one species evolves into another species. That is not the method. We are just talking about the types of species formation. Now, what are the different methods responsible for the formation of species? So, there are various methods. Mainly, there are two different methods by which species are formed. One method is called allopathic speciation. Another one is called symbiotic speciation. These are the two ways of species formation. What is allopathic speciation? So, species are formed, speciation, by means of geographical isolation followed by reproductive isolation. For example, if you take crow, we are taking crow. So in the case of crow, the binomial for this one, Corvus splendens. Corvus splendens. This is a generic name and this is a species name. Corvus splendens. Now in the case of India and Pakistan, there is actually, we have a trinomial name for the crow. There is one subspecies. Because of the geographical isolation, we have formed three subspecies. This is a species. And because of the geographical isolation in three different places, because of the barriers, we have formed three different types of species. Now this is one, Corvus splendens splendens. I am using the word splendens. So this is genus, species, and this is subspecies. And this is the name of the species of India and Pakistan. And the next one, Corvus splendens insolens. Insolens. This is a species of crow in Myanmar. Then if you are taking for example Sri Lanka, the species name, Corvus splendens protigatus. Protigatus. So you see that one, the common binomial for crow is Corvus splendens. Before the land was isolated, before the land masses were united in the past, we had only one species, that is Corvus splendens. But later what happened? See that one, India and Pakistan continues by the land mass, whereas Myanmar got separated from India because of the sea. And also Sri Lanka got separated from India by means of, you know, that one Indian Ocean. So here the land barrier is there between India and then Myanmar. Here between just India and Sri Lanka, we have the water body acting as a barrier. So because of long time, they have been isolated. What would happen? They developed genetically into different species. That is why this isolation, here you see that one first geographical isolation. They are separated by means of the land barriers, the geographical barriers in the form of valleys and mountains or rivers, or we can have also the oceans. Later, once they got separated by means of geographical barriers, there was no reproduction between them. That is called reproductive isolation. So any species which is formed because of geographical isolation followed by reproductive isolation, that method is called allopathic speciation. This is one example. Another example, you know that what frogs of South India and Sri Lanka. So you see that one Sri Lanka was in connection with India in the past, and because of the formation of the Gulf of Mannar, you see that one they got separated. And the South Indian frog, now different from the Sri Lankan frog, entered two different species. Now they are not able to interbreed among themselves. There is no interbreeding possible, so they are all into new species. So that method of formation of new species by geographical isolation followed by reproductive isolation is called allopathic isolation. Allopathic speciation. Now the symbiotic speciation. Here, two different species are living together in the same habitat, but they do not interbreed. So that means there is no geographical isolation, but only reproductive isolation. So any species which is formed by means of reproductive isolation and without geographical isolation is called symbiotic species, and the method is called symbiotic speciation. So in the first one we have both geographical and reproductive isolation. The second one we have only reproductive isolation and there is no geographical isolation. So that means we have the formation of species within a population without geographical isolation. That means they are living in the same habitat. If you take the example of frog, Rana hexadactyla, different species of frog, Rana hexadactyla, Rana cynoplectis, Rana tigrina, Rana pipiens, all are living together in the same habitat, but they maintain their species identity. That means they are not interbreeding. So, any species formation by means of reproductive isolation without geographical isolation is called symbiotic speciation, and the species are called symbiotic species. For example, the different species of frog. And another example, you see that one Darwin's finches in Galapagos Islands. We have more than just 20 species of Darwin's finches, namely the sparrow, geospines. So all are living together in the same habitat, Galapagos Islands, but they do not interbreed. So that is the best example. Darwin's finches, the best example for symbiotic speciation. The another one, Australian marsupials. So if you just analyze the origin of these Australian marsupials, you see that one there is an adaptive radiation. From a single species, many species have been evolved to adapt themselves to the varying conditions of the same habitat. So the two examples, Darwin's finches and Australian marsupials, the best example for symbiotic speciation. They are all living together in the same habitat, but they do not interbreed. So here species formation is only by reproductive isolation and not by geographical isolation. Now we have different methods of isolating mechanisms responsible for the formation of species. And one person, now he is called as actually Darwin of 20th century, Ernst Mayr. He just actually, that is a proposed concept, and also the book Systematics and Origin of Species in 1942. He is called as Darwin of 20th century. So he emphasized the importance of allopathic speciation, that is formation of species by means of geographical isolation and reproductive isolation. Importance of allopathic speciation, the formation of new species, and also he was the first one has given that is a definition of biological species concept. So we have actually to maintain a particular species. So the maintenance of a particular species as a real one has its own individuality is because of certain isolating mechanisms. We can classify the isolating mechanisms into two. One is geographical isolation, another one reproductive isolation, what I mentioned. So geographical isolation of these two, the most common type is the geographical isolation. It is because of the various barriers, the geographical barriers in the form of mountains, just we have the rivers, the oceans, valleys, etc. It's the most common type. And normally it is produced by the what is called the barriers. For example, one example what I mentioned, just we have the crow in different areas because of geographical isolation, the form of barriers, the land or water barriers. Then reproductive isolation. So it is nothing but an intrinsic barrier to prevent what is called interbreeding. So it is the existence of intrinsic barrier to the interbreeding of natural population. So in natural population, it's not actually we are producing the barriers. In a natural population, there are natural barriers. They prevent actually reproduction between two different species, and that is called reproductive isolation. That is why it's called as intrinsic barrier to the interbreeding. Now again, the reproductive isolating mechanisms are grouped under two. One is pre-mating isolating mechanism, the one which normally operate prior to mating. Another one, post-mating isolations, active to subsequent to mating. After mating, so it allows mating process. Then after mating process, there are certain barriers preventing the development of the hybrid zygote. But in the first one already, there are barriers in nature which will not allow the interbreeding between different species. Now let's take the first one. Out of these two, which one of these two is being favored by the natural selection? Normally the natural selection just selects those individuals having pre-mating isolating mechanisms, and when compared to the post-mating isolating mechanism. So the natural selection tends to favor those individuals exhibiting pre-mating isolating mechanism than those or over those that have post-mating or post-zygotic isolating mechanisms. So anyway, which are the individuals which are being selected by nature among these two? Individuals with the pre-mating isolating mechanisms are favored or more selected by nature than the post-mating isolating mechanisms or the individuals having such mechanisms. Now, under the pre-mating isolating mechanism, we have the following types. Number one, ecological isolation. Though different populations are living together in the same geographical region, they occupy different habitats. Some, for example, they are living in a particular area. Some are living in water, some are living on land, some are living on trees. This is called ecological isolation. Then seasonal or temporal isolation. You see that one, the mating process or the flowering in the case of plants, they occur at different seasons. That is why you can say that one protandus condition prototype. In some cases the testis matures first, in some cases the ovaries matures first, like that. So the flowering in plants and the mating in animals occur at two different seasons. That is called seasonal or temporal isolation. But the most important one is the sexual isolation or behavioral isolation, ethological isolation or psychological isolation. The study of behavior is called ethology. That is why this isolation is also called ethological isolation. So, actually the males and females of the same species are attracted towards each other when compared to the different species. Males and females of the same species are attracted, and the males and females of different species are not attracted towards each other. This is what is called sexual, behavioral, psychological or ethological isolation. Mechanical isolation, physical non-correspondence of external genitalia or the floral parts. So the mating between actually a donkey and a horse is prevented because of the external genital organs arrangement. That is called physical non-correspondence. There is no correspondence between the external genitalia of dog as well as a cat. That is why interbreeding is prevented. Because this method, for example, the pre-mating isolating method, is normally preventing interspecific crosses. Its importance is to prevent interspecific crosses. No cross is possible between two different species because of the isolating mechanisms. Then mechanical isolation, I mentioned already, physical non-correspondence of external genitalia or the flowering parts. And now gametic isolation. The spermatozoa of one species is not attracted towards the egg of another species. Because you know that the movement of sperm towards the egg is by means of chemotaxis. The egg releases one chemical, fertilizing, and that fertilizing attracts another chemical found in the sperm head, namely anti-fertilizing. So the chemical nature of fertilizing and anti-fertilizing between the same species same, but between different species is different, the chemical nature. So the spermatozoa of one species is not attracted to the egg of another species. Similar in the case of plants, the pollen grain actually never attracted by the ovule of different species. So normally the pollen grain is moving towards the ovule of the same species, not towards, because the ovule never attracts the pollen grain of different species. So these are all actually the pre-mating isolating mechanisms operative just before mating process. Their main importance is preventing interspecific crosses. Normally nature has favored only the individuals with pre-mating isolating mechanisms. Now the post-mating isolations. And there are three different methods of post-mating isolating mechanisms. Hybrid inviability, hybrid sterility, and hybrid breakdown. So, hybrid inviability, hybrid sterility, another one hybrid breakdown. What is hybrid inviability? So, this one, actually this method allows the fertilization of two different species, sperm and egg. So, fertilization is possible, a hybrid is formed, but the hybrid zygote, sorry, I mentioned hybrid zygote, not hybrid, hybrid zygote is unable to develop further, it will die. There is no further development for what is called that hybrid zygote. This is called hybrid inviability. A hybrid zygote is formed, it will not proceed the further development. And likewise, we have the hybrid sterility and also the hybrid breakdown, etc. And as one that time, I am concluding this one, as time is already concluded. So we'll proceed further about this one in the next class about further types of post-mating isolating mechanisms. You are welcome to ask any questions. You can ask any questions related to the topic or post your questions. We are ready to answer. Thank you. Class is complete.